Chapter 31 The Death of Eclipse. Please give me flowers and collection. When Yeling looked down, Marcus on the ground looked up instantly. His eyes were filled with resentment. Yeling, open your hands and shoot out golden light. However, Yeling's speed completely exceeded his imagination. Golden light penetrated Yeling's figure. It passes through the body and is just an afterimage. What? In Marcus's surprised eyes, Yeling landed in the manor. Dozens of Sentry Secret Service soldiers opened fire instantly. Compared with the previous Hyena unit, the equipment of these soldiers has obviously been upgraded to a higher level. The gun flashed with purple light. It looks a lot like Hydra's energy gun. The energy bombs shot instantly melted the steel statues in the manor. A puddle of molten iron was left behind. The temperature is so high that it is comparable to Yeling's heat vision. But no matter how destructive it is, the soldier's gun could not lock Yeling's figure. Yeling's speed is extremely fast, and in the eyes of soldiers, it is no different from teleportation. Countless energy bombs can only destroy the manor into a mess. Looking around, the usually exquisite manor is full of bomb craters as large as file size. Statues were shattered and vegetation burst into flames. In this fire, Yeling's figure flashed. None of the Sentry Secret Service soldiers could take a punch. There is only one end. Even people with guns were killed by Yeling with one punch. Marcus was furious, watching Yeling crush the soldiers but ignoring herself. This guy doesn't take himself seriously at all. Damn it! Such an attitude! The light in Marcus's hands shone even brighter. With a heavy step, the stone bricks on the ground shattered. The whole person was as close to Yeling as a bullet. The light from both fists radiated heat, and they hit Yeling hard. Yeling punched out without looking back. Bang! Marcos took the blow with trembling fists. Go to hell! The light on both fists suddenly exploded, swallowing Yeling and the soldiers instantly. The high temperature instantly ignited the soldiers. The flesh and blood were evaporated into a blackened skeleton. The light dissipated and fell to the ground, turning into a handful of black ash. Snapped! Yeling shook his hand and extinguished the flames ignited by his clothes. Marcus, you are getting stronger. But it's a pity. Yeling squeezed a little with the thumb and index finger of her left hand. It seems I'm a little stronger. In Yeling's panel, Man of Steel has undergone new changes. New feature activated, Biological Force Field. Biological Force Field, one of Superman's special abilities. Ability to transmit material induction or interaction between organisms or between organisms and other objects. Superman in the original work is precisely because he can cover other people and objects with a biological force field. Only then can the passenger plane land safely. It can also catch your girlfriend when she falls from a height without causing injury. If Spider-Man also had a biological force field, Gwen wouldn't have died from a broken cervical spine. Marcus' ability is essentially absorbing light to manipulate it again. Most of the light on Earth comes from the sun. So for Yeling, Marcos's attack just now was simply a charge. It was the changes in Marcos's physical fitness that made Yeling a little curious. No way, you monster! Why doesn't it work? After being captured by Campbell, Marcos quickly relented. Before joining the mutant underground organization, Marcos's job was border smuggling. For him, betrayal is not difficult at all as long as he can survive. What's more, Yeling and Lorna are no longer wanted. Contrary to his prisoner status, Marcos immediately surrendered to Sentry. This time I heard that the target of the operation was Yeling. Marcos even volunteered to participate in the operation. sa. Yelling punched straight at him, but Marcos raised his arms to block it. Crack! The arms are twisted into weird shapes. Severe pain shot through both arms. How is that possible? It was clearly evenly matched just now, why did it suddenly surge? Pain and doubt haunted Marcos at the same time. Suddenly, a bad thought occurred to Marcos. Yelling didn't give his full strength. Yelling took one step forward and came to Marcos. Another punch. Marcos broke into a cold sweat and activated his ability instantly. The whole person disappeared. The next second, he appeared 10 meters away. Flickering ability? No, it's a shadow. Listen to Yelling talk about the source of his ability. The fear in Marcos's heart could not be greater. After surrendering to Campbell, Marcos participated in the transformation experiment. Ability to integrate multiple peers. Thunderbird John's super strength and speed, as well as hearing and sensing. From the shadow mutant gene saved by Stryker, teleportation. In addition, his own ability to manipulate photons has been strengthened twice. If Campbell hadn't implanted a nanobomb in him, he had long since betrayed again. Your physical strength comes from John, your teleportation comes from Shadow, what else? Yelling is approaching step by step. Marcos was determined to give up and used teleportation again. Marcos' figure disappeared instantly. When he appeared again, he saw Yelling smiling. Bang! Debris flew. Marcos was kicked into the ground by Yelling. The ground paved with stone slabs was forcibly pressed into a humanoid outline. The shadow's teleportation range is limited. Within 10 meters, can you go faster than me? Marcos fell into an ice cave. The powerful force coming from his chest made him unable to move. Only now did he understand the gap between himself and Yelling. Recall a little bit of what Yelling just said. What a difference! I know Camel's plan. I'll tell you everything. As long as you let it go, puff. Marcos's head was crushed by Yelling's kick. Kill the alpha-level mutant Eclipse and gain 1,500 experience points. Kill the elite soldiers of the Sentry Secret Service and gain 120 experience points. Kill Sentry Special. After dozens of prompt sounds, Yelling upgraded again. Name, Yelling. Race, human race. Pedigree, Gold Superman. Age, 16. Level 7300-2200. Power, 305. Agility, 538. Stamina, 297. Intelligence, 210. Charm, 132. Lucky, 17. Current free points, 4. Ability, Elementary level speed, Body of Steel under development. Achievement, Traveler Gold. Same operation, totally lucky. After adding points, Yelling exits the personal data panel. Looking at the devastated Greymont Manor. Kicked open the door of the Manor Villa. Bang! The door shattered, but no resistance could be seen. The manor is 200 meters deep underground. The Marquis looked at the headless body of Marcos in the surveillance video. He crumpled the golden pocket watch in his hand. Waste! You still have the nerve to claim to be an expert in dealing with mutants. It seems we can only wake up the ancestors. Chapter 32 An Unexpected Harvest. Please give me flowers and collect them. In the Greymont bunker. Hundreds of servants are busy constantly. It's said to be a bunker, but the atmosphere here is more like a tomb. In the main hall, the Marquis looked at the huge iron coffin in front of him. The black surface has no metallic luster. It's like all the light will be sucked into it. Looking at it for a long time can even make you feel dizzy. As servants came and went, the main hall was gradually decorated like a church. But the cross in the middle is obviously weird. A closer look will reveal it. This is an inverted cross. Changes in key elements. The decoration that looked like a church a second ago has changed its taste. More like a sacrificial site. Marquee. The housekeeper trotted over, sweating profusely. That guy found the entrance to the bunker. Upon hearing the news, the Marquis grabbed the railing in front of him and dug out the dents. Damn it, seal all the doors. Send out the wolf guard. He must not be allowed to disrupt the awakening ceremony. Following the Marquis's order, all the passages connecting the bunker have thick steel doors. Fully 50 mm thick steel armor. Even rockets can't penetrate it. Yeling, who had just entered the passage, was also locked in it. Looking at the steel gates falling before and after, Yeling stepped forward and knocked twice. Clang! Since it's this thick, it's easy to handle. Clench your fist and punch it out. Boom! A huge amount of fist marks appeared on the steel armor. The entire steel plate was deformed. Then another punch. Boom! Crack! The steel plate could not withstand Yeling's powerful force. Direct break, shape shifting. Behind the steel gate is a dark and empty space. There was no light at all, but Yeling, who has super hearing, heard it clearly. There were dozens of breathing sounds throughout the space. Roar! A roar of beast sounded. Dozens of huge black figures ran out of the darkness. The hair on the body is like standing steel needles. The sharp claws scrape sparks on the ground. Yeling took a closer look. Werewolf. The special guard of the Gramont family, the Wolf Guard. The Wolf Guard is a team composed of werewolves. When fighting, he can transform into a 2-meter-tall giant wolf. It possesses terrifying combat power, as well as a certain degree of self-healing ability. The skin on the body can withstand the fire of a 50-meter heavy machine gun. It can be said that the attack is high and the blood is thick, and it is very cruel. Looking at the giant wolves with scarlet eyes, Yeling moved his feet. The figure instantly turned into a black shadow and crashed into the wolves. Ouch! With just one encounter, the giant wolf in the lead was knocked away. Rolling into darkness, not knowing whether to live or die. The bones are pretty strong. While speaking, Yeling formed a knife with her hands. The hand knife slashed across the neck of a giant wolf. Pfft! The smelly blood spurted out as if it was free of charge. This time, self-healing ability can't save him. In the main hall underground, the Marquis looked at the wolf head symbols that turned grey one by one. His hands trembled. The Wolf Guard is the elite force of House Gramont. It is by relying on these giant wolves. Only the Gramont family can stand out from the many underground families. Defeat your opponents time and time again. But now, the Wolf Guards have spent a lot of time and money training. Total loss. Such a loss made the Marquis feel distressed and frightened. I feel sorry for the dead Wolf Guard, who is worth a lot of money and has great fighting power. If this group is lost, it will take decades to cultivate the next generation. Thus, House Gramont would have to give up their seat on the high table. It's because of the fright. It only took Yeling 3 minutes to wipe out the Wolf Guard. The distance from the main hall of the bunker is less than 2 minutes. But the next moment, boom! The door to the main hall of the bunker was kicked open by Yeling. There was also a ferocious wolf head in his hand. Blood dripped from the wolf's mouth and gathered into a pool of scarlet on the ground. Huge amounts of wolf eyes seem to burst out at any time, and they will never rest in peace. The Marquis recognized it from the scar on the wolf's head. This is the head of the wolf guard captain. Yeling looked up and showed a hearty smile. Yo, Marquis! Are you ready for what I want? I came in a hurry, I picked up a gift on the way. After saying that, he threw the wolf head in his hand. The wolf's head fell to the ground and hit the Marquis in front of him. A wave of anger welled up in the heart of the Marquis. Yelling, "How dare you humiliate me like this?" With a roar, the Marquis bared his fangs. Under the pale skin, blue-black blood vessels beat like snakes. Yo vampire! Yelling's figure flashed in front of the Marquis instantly. Kick it out! There was thunder and wind, as if a hurricane was blowing in the bunker. Bang! The Marquis felt as if he had been hit by a 100-ton heavy truck. It flew out, smashed through several walls, and landed at the venue of the awakening ceremony. The whole bunker shook. The ground showed spider-web-like cracks. You! Bang! Just as the Marquis raised his head, Yeling stepped on his chest hard again. Huge amounts of noise were heard clearly by the servants who arranged the awakening ceremony. But due to the power of the Marquis, no one dared to go out and look up. Look at the weird ritual scene. Yeling looked at the entire audience. The dark coffin attracted Yelling's attention. At first glance, this material is not an ordinary metal material. Kicking away the Marquis, Yeling walked towards the dark coffin. Etc. What are you going to do? The Marquis stood up and threw himself at Yeling. Snapped. Yeling reached out and grabbed the Marquis head firmly in his hands. A pinch with 5 fingers. Bang! The Marquis head exploded. The headless corpse collapsed and soon turned into ashes. Seeing Yeling walking towards the coffin, the servants present rushed up like crazy. Sharp teeth and claws, pale skin. Disgusting thing! Yelling's eyes lit up red and swept across the audience instantly. Sizzle! Hundreds of vampires were swept away in an instant and spread all over the sky. Looking at the coffin in front of me, I stepped on it. Boom! The ground was cracked, showing spider web-like patterns all around. There were no traces left on the dark coffin. Interesting. The heat vision is used again, and it hits the coffin violently. Sizzle. As soon as the high temperature comes into contact, the dark coffin quickly begins to come alive. It seemed that he was very afraid of the high temperature, and the dark matter continued to retreat from the coffin. The coffin revealed its original silver metallic luster. The dark matter shrank into a small ball. The cocoon came to Yelling's feet and kept rubbing against it, as if begging for mercy. The dark matter instantly reminded Yelling of a large group of creatures in the Marvel world. Symbiote. Without the protection of the symbiote, the metal coffin was quickly melted into a pool of molten iron. The corpses of the Greymont ancestors inside were also mixed together. Hard to tell. Hooking his fingers, the symbiote jumped onto Yelling's palm obediently. Putting his palms together, Yelling soared into the sky, crashing directly through the bunker and into the night sky. Wait until 2 hours after Yelling leaves. In the Greymont bunker, 3 women wearing black gauze and large brimmed hats formed a circle. Really? So bad? It's okay, it can still be repaired, but I don't have the chance to get the body of Ancestor Greymont on weekdays. The man who destroyed the Greymont family, we have to take the initiative to get to know him. Chapter 33. Tony said he wanted to create a new Avengers. In the central apartment, Yelling, who was teasing the symbiote, received the share transfer letter. 30%. Lorna stared at Yeling with her beautiful eyes after reading the share transfer document. Although Lorna has never studied seriously since she was a child. But she also knew what 30% of Stark Enterprises represented. Not only financial resources, but more importantly influence. As one of the major shareholders of Stark Enterprises. If the military wants to take action against Yeling again, it must think carefully. Are you going to the press conference today? Putting down the transfer letter, Lorna changed her position and leaned on the sofa. Her green hair was tied up, making her look more capable. The long-sleeved hooded sweatshirt she wore was quite wide, covering Lorna's devilish figure. The jeans on her lower body covered her long legs and she was standing on the table. After strengthening with the super soldier serum, Lorna's already charming long legs have further developed. Rich and powerful, the previous thin feeling is no longer there. The only thing that makes Yeling feel pity is that Lorna doesn't like wearing stockings. Definitely, Tony's press conference will be exciting. Yeling walked to the window and looked at the Stark building in the distance. How could you miss it? Tony was reborn from the ashes this time, so he must have finished researching the armor. Iron Man's first appearance is not to be missed. Just speaking, I haven't seen Hydra's sincerity yet. It seems that Zola is unwilling to accept it. I believe Hydra will not miss this press conference. Thinking of this, Yeling turned to Lorna and said, "Let's go. We are now the majority shareholders of Stark Enterprises. Shareholders cannot be absent from Tony's press conference." Lorna frowned. "But our countrymen are still in Camel's prison. How can a press conference be more important than a fellow citizen?" Yeling squeezed the symbiote in his hand. "Pudgy." The black symbiote transformed into a black glove and wrapped around his right hand. "Lorna, even if we destroy the prison now and rescue them, what will happen? They still live in the malice of the world. He will be despised, ostracized, and even arrested by Campbell again. There are even people like Marcos who betrayed their fellow citizens. Then does our action still make sense?" After hearing this, Lorna bit her lip lightly. "Then we're going to watch them suffer and do nothing. We obviously have the ability to rescue them." Yeling waved his right hand. The symbiote on the right hand stretched out a black tentacle. He took the equity transfer document on the table into his hand. "That's the key to rescuing them. Why the military doesn't dare to touch us is because Stark Enterprises is too important. What if Mutant is more important than Stark Enterprises?" After Yeling finished speaking, Lorna stood up. "I'm going to change into something suitable for a press conference. In the square of Stark building. Tony chose this place specifically for the press conference. Wait until Yeling and Lorna get out of the car." The entire venue was already packed. Lorna changed her clothes specially. Compared to the girl next door, Lorna now wears a black leather coat. The leather jacket is dotted with small metal balls, giving it a strong rock and roll vibe. But the inner layer is a shirt with a deep V-neckline, which attracts people's imagination. The lower body is in a dark green long skirt, and a pair of beautiful legs are looming. It's just that the reporter's attention is not focused on this at the moment. Countless reporters' long guns and short guns were aimed at Tony. Looking forward to what shocking news this top rich man who has come back from the dead will bring. For such a solemn occasion, Tony came wearing only a short-sleeved t-shirt and jeans. The most dazzling thing was the ice blue light that lit up on his chest. "Mr. Stark, do you have anything to say about the mysterious death of the former Vice President, Mr. Obadiah?" Before Tony could get into position, a reporter took the lead. But it was no use to Tony. "I was sad that Obadiah was gone, but I was also in the intensive care unit. Answer questions easily. He walked up to the podium and knocked on the microphone. Ahem. The press conference was quiet except for the constant sound of shutters and flashes. Everyone must know how I was attacked. Hydra is real among us. Obviously, the New York police don't have the ability to fight Hydra's super ability terrorists. So, I am here to announce that I will form a team to protect all mankind. Just call Avengers Team. I hereby call on all those willing to resist Hydra to join me. Tony's words were so impassioned that Lorna was moved. In her opinion, Sentry and Hydra are the same. Tony Stark. Your dream ends here. A taunt came from the sky. Everyone looked up and saw a huge shadow covering the sky, covering the sun. A sky carrier appears above the Stark building. And that sarcastic voice came from Dr. Zola. You and your father are both self-righteous fools. Now, let your dreams go to hell with you. Hydra, hail! Giving an order to Zola, the sky carrier flew out countless drones. It began to attack the crowd below. The ship's artillery also began to follow the special algorithm of the Insight project to target the crowd. Oh my god! What is this? My god! Why is there an aircraft carrier in the sky? Hurry up and take a photo, this is today's headline. Reporters kept taking pictures of the aircraft carrier. But the attacking drone swarm opened fire directly, swish swish. Countless blue energy bombs fell like raindrops. Green light flashed in Lorna's hand, instantly exploding several drones. But for the vast swarm of drones, it is only a drop in the bucket. Yeling used his thermal vision, and at a glance, hundreds of drones exploded. The host destroys the Hydra drone and is rewarded with 20 experience points. Host. The system's experience prompts kept ringing. Although each one only has 20 experience points, the advantage lies in the quantity. In just half a minute, Yeling's experience increased by 2,000 points. During the explosion, Tony's expression remained unchanged. Open your arms. A silver-white figure descended from the sky. The target is Tony. Get out of the way. Mr. Stark. Amid everyone's exclamations, the silver-white armor opened instantly, completely surrounding Tony. The mask dropped and his eyes lit up with blue energy. The icy blue light on his chest lit up instantly. Buzz buzz. The sound of energy gathering sounded. Boom. Huge amounts of icy blue light beams instantly rose into the sky. The Hydra drone swarm was wiped out in an instant. Magnificent fireworks exploded in the air. The silver-white battle armor spurted out flames from its feet, flew into the air and spread its arms. From today on, my name is Iron Man. Chapter 34: The True Power of Magnetic Field. Lorna looked at Tony, who was showing off his power. Turning to look at Yeling. You already knew. Yeling raised his hand to control the symbiote to form a barrier, blocking the fallen drone debris. I just knew Tony was going to surprise people. Which press conference is not brilliant? Lorna's surprise was definitely what Yeling expected. The mutant in the original series did not have a wise man like Professor X. They are just a group of guys who only know how to be reckless. Thunderbirds simply don't have the intelligence of a leader. Yeling actually doesn't want to care about these guys. But Lorna is around. Yeling also had the idea of cultivating a new leader of mutant. This time I took Lorna to the press conference. This is the first step in getting Lorna to change her mindset. In Hydra's deep-sea base, echoed Dr. Zola's roar. Dr. Zola's body has long since died. But not before that. Dr. Zola uploaded his mind to the server. After decades of dormancy, with the power of SHIELD, Dr. Zola built multiple mechanical bodies for himself. This one in the deep sea base was the first to be activated. The mechanical body is 2 meters tall. The special metal used for the shell is the same material as the Winter Soldier arm, able to withstand extremely high impact forces. It can withstand even high temperatures and severe cold. The head of the mechanical body is a display screen showing Dr. Zola's face. As a naturally short person, Dr. Zola finally achieved his high wish. Dr. Zola looked at Tony, who was wearing silver armor in the video. "Damn it, you Stark bastards, concentrate your firepower and blow the silver armor into pieces." Every time she saw Tony's face, Zora couldn't help but think of Howard. While joining SHIELD, Howard mocked Zola more than once. The order to assassinate Tony this time was also given by Zola to Winter Soldier Bucky. Instead, Tony was reborn. And the silver armor on Tony made Zola even more angry. "You can tell at a glance that they use special metals developed by ourselves. Plagiarism. This is shameful plagiarism. The Stark family is simply the broom star of Hydra. It was Howard who funded Erkins to complete the super soldier serum. Created Hydra's #1 enemy, Captain America Steve. Howard also used vibranium to make a shield for Captain America. Later, Howard successfully reverse-engineered the super soldier serum using Captain America's blood. This forced Hydra to take action. Assassinated Howard. Now, decades later, when Tony exposed S.H.I.E.L.D., he also exposed Hydra. Inside plans were also disclosed in advance. Only one of the 3 air carriers can be armed. I heard Tony was going to hold another press conference today. Dr. Zola immediately decided to kill Tony in front of the news media. Completely wipe out the Stark family. Rumlow, kill Tony Stark at any cost. Dr. Zola has just issued the order. A communications company came in. "Zola, you are too reckless. The Insight project is not completely completed yet. Many of my undercover agents have been discovered because of your actions. On the other side of the communication is Straker in Europe. He is also one of Hydra's smugglers. As a result of Hydra's exposure, many important organizations have begun internal investigations. Several undercover Hydra agents have been discovered." This made Strucker furious. Facing accountability from Strack, Dr. Zola didn't care at all. "Strucker, you have no right to give me orders. I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Soon, the space carrier will arrive in Washington, showing the world the power of Hydra." After saying that, he hung up Straker's communication directly. Outside the Stark building, following Dr. Zola's orders, countless drones flew out of the aerospace aircraft carrier again. Like a wave, it attacked Tony in the air. All the artillery fire also targeted Tony. Facing menacing artillery fire and drone swarms, the silver armor's feet instantly spurted out fierce flames. The speed increased sharply, heading towards the space carrier. J.A.R.V.I.S. The scan isn't complete yet. The artificial intelligence of J.A.R.V.I.S. is completely liberated after being connected to the armor system. The space carrier is being deconstructed and scanned. Scan completed. The main control system is locked. On Tony's visor interface, the main control system of the space carrier was directly marked. Faced with a heavily protected main control system, Tony turned on the suit's fire control system. Lock the target and fire all bombs. In an instant, several launch ports were opened on the body of the silver armor. Hundreds of micromissiles flew out of the body. Dense tail flames streaked across the sky like meteors. Boom boom boom. The missile hit the lower right side of the space carrier. The heat and explosives tore apart the tough outer armor. Tony saw the opportunity, moved forward at full speed, and plunged into the space carrier. The main control system was instantly exposed in front of Tony. Aha! Finally found you, goodbye. Both palms light up, and the reactor core on the chest accelerates. The blue laser instantly penetrated the main control computer. Boom! The main control system exploded. In an instant, all drones lost their signals. Falling downwards. Thousands of drones falling down are also a disaster. Yelling patted Lorna on the shoulder. It's time, Lorna. Lorna looked up at the countless drones falling from the sky. He looked embarrassed. This is too much. Your power is the magnetic field, which comes from the Earth. Earth's magnetic field. Yelling turns on the biological force field to cover Lorna. Feel the power. Through Yelling's biological force field, Lorna felt the rhythm of the Earth's magnetic field. In an instant, brilliant green light bloomed from Lorna's hands. Raise your hands. Countless falling drones were frozen in the sky. Put your hands together. Magnetic manipulation. The drones converged towards the center, constantly integrating change. The sound of tearing metal continued to sound. Finally, a solid sphere of 3 meters file size is formed. The sphere slowly fell and landed in front of Lorna. At this moment, all cameras turned to Lorna. Passers-by also took out their mobile phones to record the incident. Oh my God! Mutant! It's so spectacular! She saved us all! Looking at reporters and passers-by who kept taking photos and videos. Yelling had to lament that Magneto and his family are all born to be great people. The ability to create big scenes is innate. Under everyone's gaze, Lorna waved her hands. The devastated streets and buildings began to move. The remaining bricks and tiles on the ground turned into dust and floated towards the damaged area. In a few breaths, the messy battlefield was cleaned up. Oh my God, this is a miracle! Is this a mutant? Goddess! This is the goddess! Many Christians who believe in God have already begun to pray. The eyes looking at Lorna were full of reverence. The image of Lorna using ability spread instantly. Mutant is once again a hot topic. Sentry Secret Service Headquarters. Campbell watched the video of Lorna demonstrating strength. His eyes were full of anger. It's just temporary pride. Wait until the real Sentry is successfully developed. Don't even think about running away. Campbell looked at the genetic sample in his hand and smiled. Genetic samples have names written on their labels. Mystique, Chapter 35 The Decision of the High Table. Finally done. Tony, who cracked the space carrier, flew to the ground. We deliberately chose to land where there were the most reporters. Be prepared to enjoy a media siege. I happened to see Lorna shine. What's the situation? Shouldn't I be the protagonist? Why are there still people kneeling down to pray? Hey! I'm the protagonist. Am I not the one who turned the tide? Looking at Lorna who was surrounded, Tony felt unspeakably aggrieved. J.A.R.V.I.S. Do you think my work has been in vain? Mr. Stark, you saved at least 3,698 people present, and you know that's not what I'm talking about, J.A.R.V.I.S. Well, yes. Underground in the Sahara Desert. The High Table's base has been established here for thousands of years. There are 12 positions on the round table in the central conference room. The seats are divided clockwise from the 1st to the 12th. Today, 11 people are seated. The 4th vacant seat on the right. It belongs to the Grammont family. It seems that the Grammont family has finally declined. The woman who spoke first sat at the 3rd seat. His deep facial features are of obvious Italian origin. A circle of mink velvet at the neckline highlights the ladylike temperament. Gianna, you should take care of your good-for-nothing brother. You don't need to worry about the Grammont family. Gina raised her eyes and looked at the gray-haired black man at the 9th seat opposite. Sloane, I heard that you created a few more orphans. Still tinkering with your old fables. Teaching people the bullet-turning trick. The two people's words were full of gunpowder. It seemed like a fight was about to start at the next moment. Enough. The first person spoke and the two immediately shut up. This is not the place for you to bicker. The last all-hands meeting was 70 years ago. You must have already investigated the person who destroyed the Grammont family. The old man's voice came from under the cloak. Golden lines appeared on the black cloak. That's a magic circuit, which suggests that the black cloak is a magical item. The face under the cloak seemed to be covered with fog. No one could clearly see the face of the old man in the 1st seat. The old man in the 1st seat is older than the members in the other seats. Seats have changed countless times over the past 1,000 years, but only the 1st seat has remained unchanged. As for the elders known to the killers, it's just a cover to spread the word. Skinny hands took off the hood. The true appearance of the 1st seat was revealed. The old man's face is full of wrinkles like the traces of time. The 10 people present saw the true appearance of the 1st seat for the first time. Years of speculation finally paid off. The old man of the mountain, Hassan. Founder of the Order of Asir. The man found out, yelling, a mutant. He was recently released from wanted status. I think this guy must be eradicated. This is a disregard for the high table. The honor of the high table is supreme. It cannot be desecrated. Black Sloane said, knocking on the table. Oh, you look confident. What did he rely on to destroy the Grammont family? The conflict lasted only a day and a half, can you do it too? Hassan's words left Sloane speechless. These years of comfort and success have allowed you to relax for too long. Faced with such a powerful enemy, he is still in the mood for intrigue. After speaking, Hassan pressed his finger. The video of Yeling attacking the Grammont family was played in the conference room. Watching Yeling destroy Grammont's wolf guard like a beast. Everyone showed surprised eyes. That's a wolf guard, a guy who's not afraid of heavy firearms at all. Just die like that. The Marquis has no power to fight back. Is there really such a mutant? The mythical god of war is nothing more than that, right? Seeing Yeling's display of combat prowess, Sloane remained silent. If you clamor for revenge, you are just fighting for the disposal power of the 4th seat. My master's blood has given you a physique and vitality that far exceeds that of ordinary people. But that doesn't mean you are immortal. The words of the 1st seat shocked the 10 people present. This is an obvious warning. This time, not only the Grammont family was destroyed. What's more important is that the body of ancestor Grammont is missing. The master's blood is leaking out. The real enemy is operating in the shadows, and you are still making new enemies. The high table was established for the master's recovery. You all seem to be starting to forget about this goal. Feeling Hassan's increasingly serious tone, all 10 people lowered their heads. The leakage of blood is related to one's life and death. Hassan's palm lit up with blood-red lines. Gina and Sloane turned pale at the same time. His facial features were distorted by severe pain. The tear coming from the depths of the soul is heartbreaking. This is just a little punishment. Recover the vampire and win over the mutant. If you can't do it, it won't be as simple as tearing a little soul apart. In the central apartment. Can you do it again? Lorna blushed and looked at Yeling. Come again, how many times has it happened? I'm very tired too. Facing Yeling's excuse, Lorna grabbed Yeling's hand. Just once, the last time. I really feel like it's coming soon. Let me feel the Earth's magnetic field again. It can be seen that Lorna mustered up huge amounts of courage before speaking. Normally, Lorna had never begged Yeling like this. Faced with Lorna's persistent pleas, Yeling had no choice but to use the biological force field again. The biological force field actually appeared in Yeling awakening flight ability. But it has always been able to only affect itself, and cannot even be covered by clothes. At that time, if Yeling was flying at full speed, nothing would happen to him. But it is estimated that New Yorkers will be able to see the naked butt trapeze artist. Along the way, Yeling is also constantly developing his own abilities. Flight speed has increased again and again. The application of biological force fields is also becoming more and more mature. From being applied to clothes to being applied to living creatures. Relying on the connection of the biological force field, the little symbiont can communicate with Yeling, perform a variety of complex behaviors and even communicate. But the little guy's memory is too little and very fragmented. Most likely part of a symbiote. After Yeling killed Marcos and upgraded again, the biological force field also strengthened. This is the scene where Lorna feels the Earth's magnetism through the biological force field. Once again, Yeling activates the biological force field. The moment the force field covers Lorna, Lorna's face flushed with excitement. This is the real magnetic field. This feeling. Marvelous. I can clearly understand every magnetic movement. After a long time, Yeling withdrew the force field. Lorna gave Yeling a kiss on the face. Sneak attack. Then Lorna looked like a frightened little rabbit. Blushing, she ran back to the bedroom and closed the door. Yeling felt the remaining warmth on her cheeks. He smiled and said, "Hey, it's not in vain." Chapter 36 Scapegoat. Sunlight floods into the central apartment's huge floor-to-ceiling windows. Lorna got up early today. In the living room, Lorna, dressed in casual home clothes, sat cross-legged on the sofa. Grey denim shorts with laptop on top. Lorna browsed the web. The current web page is full of news about Lorna. The topic of mutant has become a hot topic again. Mutants are human too. Not all mutants become super criminals. The Mutant Act is too harsh. I saw with my own eyes troops called hyenas capturing and torturing mutants, even killing them. Information about mutants' persecution was also revealed. Definitely, there are many voices resisting mutant. Mutants need to be strictly regulated. This is just a show. Mutant must have another conspiracy. Hydra might have been created by mutant. Lorna frowned at these rumors. Secret Service lackey. Yeling threw a piece of raw beef into the air. The symbiote jumped up and instantly turned into a big mouth to swallow the raw meat. After eating the raw meat, Yeling jumped back and rubbed her palms like a baby. There is no use telling the Sentry's Secret Service that mutant is innocent. Those who have wronged you know better than you how wronged you are. Lorna closed the web page and was still confused. Is this really going to work if we do this? We have also sought help online before, but in the end nothing came of it. Looking at Lorna's confused expression, Yeling feels a little cute. Normal Lorna would not have this expression. You are different now. You saved everyone present. And there's stark corporate influence. Now is the time to bring Camel's prison to light. Just watch, the compatriots in prison will be released soon. Listening to Yelling's words, Lorna picked up her phone and started uploading information. But Yelling took the phone away. What are you doing? Aren't you going to expose Campbell? Yelling shook his head and said with a smile, we shouldn't do this. Now, we need a big shot with a sense of justice. In the face of oppression by the military and the Sentry's Secret Service, we must expose this criminal behavior. After Yelling finished speaking, Lorna was shocked. Then his expression changed and he looked at Yelling. You mean Tony Stark? Yelling smiled. I finally figured it out, leave it to Tony. He knows how to deal with those politicians best. He turned to look at the high-rise buildings outside the window. Yelling opens the window and steps out. Only a gust of wind was left behind, and the figure had disappeared. Flight ability has been developed again. Yelling is now able to perform precise microsecond operations in the air. This is also due to its own speed ability. If we say before, Yelling was a violent bomber. Strong destructive power and fast speed. So now Yelling is a space fighter. It has strong destructive power, fast speed, and more flexible operation. And the battery life is super. Soon, Yelling appeared on the roof of the Stark building. At this moment, Tony is focusing on strengthening his armor. He was still mumbling. Just wait, my armor is the one that attracts all the attention. It just having super abilities. Money is also super abilities. By the way, we need to add an anti-magnetic function. Suddenly the voice of J.A.R.V.I.S. appears. Mr. Stark, you have visitors. No, I'm not free. Tony refused to take any notice. I suggest you meet him. The Stark building security cannot stop Mr. Yelling. Hearing Yelling's name, Tony stopped what he was doing. FK. Let him in, I'll go see him right away. Turning around, Yelling was already standing at the door of the laboratory. Look at Yelling's smile. Tony had a bad feeling in his heart and said directly, 30% of the shares is a lot. Yelling spread his hands. Tony, we are friends. Am I a person who only cares about money in your eyes? Tony sneered. Haha, being your friend is a bit expensive. Faced with Tony's vicious words, Yelling took out her mobile phone. Originally, I wanted to give you this opportunity to be a hero. After exposing Hydra, I'm speaking out for Mutant-S unfair treatment. How pleasant and great it sounds. But it seems you don't consider me a friend, by Tony. Being as smart as Tony, he quickly realized how important the news brought by Yelling was. Although he announced the creation of Avengers. But so far, no super ability person has come forward and said they are willing to join. Mutant, a natural super ability person. This opportunity to speak out for mutant must be seized. Etc. Tony jumped out of his chair. He stepped forward and grabbed Yelling's sleeve. I want this information. Please give me a price. Yelling smiled. I want you to help me build a suit of armor, but not now. Sentry's Secret Service base in New York. Camel's roar echoed throughout the conference room. Impossible. These mutants are all dangerous. What's more, my research has reached a critical moment. How can you just let them go? Camel's face was red and veins popped out on his neck. He slapped the conference room table angrily. Lieutenant General Allen sitting opposite didn't even raise his eyelids. Wait until Campbell finishes his rant. Lieutenant General Allen knocked on the table and spoke slowly, Dr. Campbell, everything you have is from me. Now, I want to take it all back." As soon as he finished speaking, the conference room opened. Several armed soldiers walked in. Looking at Lieutenant General Allen in front of him, Camel's heart was filled with turmoil. "General, what do you mean?" Lieutenant General Allen stood up and walked to the door with his back to Campbell. "From now on, your group is under the control of the military. And you, Dr. Campbell, you face several charges, including but not limited to unlawful imprisonment of mutant, first-degree murder of multiple mutants, illegal human experimentation, and treason." As Lieutenant General Allen stated the charges one by one, the soldier stepped forward and hit Campbell in the abdomen with the butt of his rifle. Bang! Campbell's vision went dark and he fainted. Looking at the unconscious Campbell, Lieutenant General Allen waved his hand. "Take him down, tie him up and supervise him 24 hours a day." After Campbell was taken away, Lieutenant General Allen contacted Lieutenant General Ross. "Ross, Campbell has taken care of it. A large number of mutants will be released soon." Rose's laughter came from the other end. "Haha, good, this way they will think they have won for once. Our operation should also officially begin. Tony Stark's armor technology will be obtained together this time." Chapter 37 Apology. In the slums of Brazil, under dim street lights, exhausted, Banner walked down the corridor filled with strange smells. A day of black labor has just ended. Take the key from under the bricks at the door. Open the dilapidated rental house. In order to avoid the pursuit of Lieutenant General Ross, Banner has been on the move. It was not easy to get out of the military's sight. But without an identity, he could only work illegally in a beverage factory. The wages are low and the environment is dirty and messy. Not to mention there are enthusiastic fellows here who are always willing to borrow some money from Banner. As soon as he walked in, Banner noticed something was wrong. "My computer has been tampered with." Banner's long life on the run has allowed him to develop extremely strong counter-detection abilities. Not the slightest hesitation, Banner turned around and ran away. He kicked the door open and ran downstairs. Target is running away. Action exposed. Plan changed, arrest immediately. An order sounded over the communication channel. Dozens of special service soldiers rushed out of hiding. The roof of the building drops downwards, and the downstairs moves upwards to outflank. However, the two groups met in the corridor. When they met each other, both teams were stunned. "Idiot! There are other passages in the building," he went to the other side. "Helicopter, report target location." Soon, the helicopter's searchlight came out. The running Banner was discovered. "Attention, the target is fleeing to the southeast. Green top, black pants." 5 or 6 military Humvees launched and chased Banner. Banner relied on the complex terrain in the slum to delay the pursuers. But helicopters in the sky always spot him. When he looked up, he unknowingly ran into the beverage factory where he worked illegally. The black boss's face of deducting wages flashed in his mind. Banner rushed into the factory with a quick stride. The factory is now closed. Not because the boss wants the workers to take a break. It's because electricity is more expensive at night. Since it is a beverage factory, there is an entrance to the sewer in the factory. The sewers are Banner's way of getting out of the helicopter. Dirty and smelly Banner doesn't care anymore. But this time, Banner's luck seems to be not so good. As soon as he entered the door, Banner saw a group of people busy grinding, mixing, shaping, drying, and packaging. "Well, it turns out that we don't have to work at night. It's the boss who has a second product." A group of people turned to look at Banner. The armed guard directly picked up the rifle in his hand and pulled the trigger. Bang! The military Humvee directly broke open the factory door. Helicopters circled overhead. But not before the soldiers got out of the car. I heard a roar of huge amounts of noise coming from the factory. Boom! A 4-meter-tall green giant bursts out of the factory. Rampage! The 3-ton military Humvee was overturned. Target appears. Deploy Weapon X immediately. In the helicopter, a figure jumped down. Hit the Hulk straight down. Hulk! The Hulk looked at the falling figure and punched it. Bang! There was a sound like a grenade exploding. The one who was repelled turned out to be the Hulk. The falling figure was filled with lightning and instantly rushed towards the Hulk. He punched out and knocked the Hulk away again. Smashed into the factory. Huge amounts of impact caused the entire factory to collapse. Looking at the scene on the battlefield, Ross in the air base smiled. Alan's Weapon X project is working well. But then Rose frowned. How many more mutants like Thunderbirds does he control? A sense of crisis arises spontaneously. For Ross, working with Lieutenant General Allen is the best choice. But this does not mean that we hope that Lieutenant General Allen's career will be smooth sailing. You can use powerful mutants like Thunderbird for yourself. It can only mean that Allen has a stronger mutant in his hands. Quick victory. Give Thunderbirds an order to capture the Hulk with all your might. New York Central Park. Yelling is sitting on the bench basking in the sun. Attributes grow slowly. No matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat. What's more, Yelling feels that the evolution of his bloodline seems to have reached a bottleneck period. The attributes that grow in the sun are getting less and less. This is definitely related to the increasing base number. The mission system did not trigger new missions after completing Tony's commission. Bored, Yelling took out her phone and started browsing. Campbell. He's just a scapegoat. Tony lived up to expectations and opened fire on the military with information on the abuse of mutants. Under the publicity, public opinion began to change. The military was angry and hated Tony, but there was nothing they could do. Although Tony announced the cessation of weapons research and development. But the most advanced weapons on the market today are still Stark Industries, and because Stark industrial products are now commonly used in the military. If you offend Tony, there may be something wrong with the weapon on the battlefield. As for those politicians, there is even less they can do. Public opinion changes and votes are at stake. Tony is also a big customer, and the political donations in his hands are very rich. In this case, Dr. Campbell can only suffer. All the blame was laid on Campbell. The sentence is 643 years. Yelling couldn't help but sigh. Regardless of whether they are human beings, they are still these guys. I looked at the time and it was time for dinner. Just go to Winston's place and have a meal. Although Yelling won't be hungry even if she doesn't eat. But never pass up the opportunity to taste delicious food. I have to say that the chef at the Continental Hotel really didn't say anything. Just as he got up, a black extended-length Lincoln stopped in front of Yelling. The black body has the logo of the Continental Hotel. Is Winston so awesome he came to pick me up before I even left? The car door opened, and Gianna, wearing a long white dress, stepped out of the car. Looking at Yelling, he was walking towards her. Mr. Yelling, I am the patriarch of the Antonio family, Gianna Antonio. On behalf of the high table, I apologize. After saying that, he bowed deeply. He bowed, revealing his beautiful figure. Yelling raised his eyebrows, rubbed his chin and said, "Oh, don't you want to kill me?" Jaina stretched out her hand to make a gesture of invitation and smiled gracefully. The strong should be respected, and our high table council has always respected the strong. I've prepared lunch at the Continental Hotel in New York, and I'd like to treat you to a favor. Yeling will never refuse. The space in the car is quite spacious, including a TV and refrigerator. The leather seats also come with massage. As one of the three major hobbies of men, cars are an unavoidable topic. Cars, guns, and balls are the three major speed bumps for men. Even though Yeling can now fly, who doesn't want a handsome and stylish supercar? Jaina saw the movement in Yeling's eyes. You can choose any car you want, even if it's a tank. The Antonio family will find it for you. Tank? Yeling thought about it and decided to forget it. Tell me about your sincerity. Chapter 38. The Continental Hotel in New York has a surname of Yet. The car soon arrived at the New York Continental Hotel. Winston waited at the door with Karen. All the way through the luxurious hall. Stepping on the velvet carpet, Yeling sat down at the neat dining table. Ding ding. Jaina rang the bell. Karen pushed the dining cart in and put sumptuous meals on the table. Winston was holding Romani Conti and waiting to pour wine. Yeling feasted on a plate of roasted pork knuckle. Jaina, who was sitting opposite, took out a golden badge. Unlike the Continental's logo, the coat of arms depicts an Ouroboros. This badge can give arbitrary orders to Continental hotels around the world, equal to the status of 12 seats. Plus, the Continental Hotel New York will be yours. You will receive a 50% share of all proceeds from the New York Continental Hotel. Hearing this, Yeling frowned slightly. You gave it to me, and you still want to share half of the proceeds. Jaina heard the displeasure in Yeling's tone and immediately explained, Don't get me wrong, this is just a decision of the parliament. Our Antonio family will be responsible for supplying you with the remaining half. After hearing Jaina's explanation, Yeling's brows relaxed. Turning to face Winston beside him, he said, Did you hear that, Winston? The Continental Hotel in New York now has a surname of Yet. You have to call me boss from now on. After finishing speaking, Yeling turned his attention to the charcoal-grilled veal steak on the side. While eating, he asked, What does the Antonio family want to gain from such generosity? Jaina stood up and sat next to Yeling, her eyes as charming as silk. The black stockings under her white dress rubbed against Yeling's calves. The Antonio family just wants Mr. Yeling's friendship. Yeling definitely doesn't believe it. After swallowing the tender and juicy veal in your mouth. His eyes were fixed on Jaina's eyes, and his voice was cold and hard. I'm afraid it's not that simple and generous. What you want to get from me is probably life-threatening, right? Meeting Yeling's eyes, Jaina instantly recalled being stared at by Hassan. It was as if all thoughts were clearly seen. There is no sincerity in lies. Yeling continued to add. Jaina swallowed, facing unprecedented psychological pressure. Forced a smile. Mr. Yeling is right, I do have something else to ask for. But it's just a small gesture for you. Do you remember the coffin in the Gramont family bunker? As soon as these words came out, Yeling instantly thought of the symbiote. The body of the ancestor of the Gramont family has disappeared. Corpse. Yeling recalled the coffin that he burned. Seeing Yeling's reminiscing look, Jaina continued to add. Actually, Ancestor Gramont is not completely dead, he is just sleeping. Looking at Jaina's eyes, Yeling asked, You think I took it? I'm not interested in corpses. It was burned and melted into an iron lump with the coffin. Jaina shook her head when she heard this. We didn't even find the remains of the coffin afterwards. These words piqued Yeling's interest. It seemed that someone entered the bunker and stole the body after he left. But what does this have to do with me? After speaking, Yeling took the meal handkerchief handed by Karen and wiped his mouth. After all, it was the work of the enemies of the high table. I have no grievances or enmities with myself. It was very generous of him not to anger the high table council because of the Gramont family. I would definitely trust your word, just if the enemies of the council seek your cooperation. I hope you can still give priority to cooperation with us. The price they can pay, the high table council can pay more. Gianna stood up and raised her wine glass to toast Yeling. Faced with such a groveling Gianna, Yeling picked up the wine glass and shook it. I have always been a person who keeps my promises. I hope the high table council will do what you say. Ding! The wine glasses collided, and Yeling drank it all. Tisk, Winston, let's switch to champagne next time. Winston heard this and bowed. Okay, boss. Outside New York's mutant prison, Polaris was observing from a distance with his mutant teammates. Except for Polaris, the group of people were all mutants who had just been released. Sure enough, they are still secretly imprisoning mutant. Hypocritical politicians, they do one thing in front of others and do another behind their backs. Lorna put down the telescope and said angrily. After a large number of mutants were released, not only did the number of guards in the prison not decrease, but they increased a lot. There must be important people locked up inside. Lorna has not been able to contact many of her friends, such as Thunderbird John, and the Gemini siblings. But none of the mutants with powerful abilities have been released. The prison in front of you is heavily guarded and important people must be imprisoned. This time, Lorna contacted her released companions and prepared for rescue. And contacted Tony in advance for subsequent exposure. This way, more mutants can be rescued. Lorna, the prison has protective force fields. As long as we enter it, our abilities will be disabled. Twinkle on the side took Lorna's arm and said. It was from this prison that she was released. If it weren't for the protective force field, she would have escaped through her ability to teleport. Lorna patted the twinkling hand and comforted, don't worry, I specially asked Tony to borrow this time. As she spoke, Lorna took out a small ball 10 centimeters in diameter. The whole body is blue, with a light red glow. What's this? Twinkle looked at the small ball full of technology and was curious. In many years of underground activities, I have never seen such high-tech things. EMP bombs can disable their protective force field generators. Okay, let's go. Lorna pressed the blue ball, and the red light flashed rapidly. Throw it towards the prison and the ball will automatically roll towards the prison after landing. Diddy, diddy, diddy. The glowing red ball quickly approached the prison guard. The moment the guard saw the ball, he shot directly. But the bullet bounced off the ball. Apparently bulletproof. There's a bomb, stay down. Seeing the ball approaching quickly, the guard immediately shouted to lie down. All the guards moved at once. The prison door also had its blast-proof door lowered and closed tightly. All the guards lay down directly to avoid the impact of the bomb. After the ball rolled to the prison gate, the red light flashed as fast as possible. Drop. Boom. An invisible shockwave instantly covered the entire prison. All the lights went out instantly. No, it's an EMP bomb. The protective field generator is malfunctioning. The mutant in Cell 3 broke free. Quick support. At the same time, Blink directly activates the ability. He teleported directly to the gate with Lorna and his companions. Facing the heavy explosion-proof door, Lorna's hands suddenly glow green. Tear it to both sides. Squeak. The 30-centimeter thick steel door was torn in half. A frightened-looking guard in the prison was revealed. Chapter 39, Punch Away. Stark building. That's just the way it is. We rescued 6 of our companions. It's all because the military broke their word. Lorna stood in the conference room with a twinkle. In front of them are Yelling and Tony. He vividly told the story of how he led his team to rob the prison. The entire prison was completely demolished. The smoke and dust could be seen from more than 10 kilometers away. And he also specifically emphasized that he also took videos. Prepare for Tony to post it online to expose the military's face. After saying this, Lorna had a smile on her face. Looking forward to congratulations from Yelling and Tony with great confidence. But after Tony heard about Lorna's prison robbery, he felt numb. Then you can't just rob the prison. Do you know what the consequences of a flagrant attack on a prison would be? Tony definitely doesn't care about legal sanctions. Instead, he finished speaking for Mutant with his own front foot. The prison robbery incident was announced on the back foot. Isn't this a slap in the face? Tony pointed at the TV and said, this is going to be all over the news soon. The military has a new reason to arrest Mutant. After hearing Tony's words, Lorna's face was startled. His beautiful eyes widened, and he thought about the consequences of his actions. His face, which was bright just now, instantly turned grey. Flickering on the side was even more panicked. We just want to rescue our companions, who are suffering inhumane abuse inside. The little naughty boy was even used for human experiments. In panic, Lorna looked at Yelling. At the moment, Yelling is sitting on the leather sofa with her legs crossed. It was as if he hadn't heard it at all. For this mess at Mutant. Yelling actually didn't want to pay attention at all. But I didn't expect that the military actually caught the little naughty boy. The little naughty girl is also called Rakshasa Girl. In the original game, Rugrats were able to imitate their abilities by coming into contact with other mutants. Think of the changes in Marcos before. It's basically a replica of Rugrats. With such an important target taken away, the military probably won't let it go. Since that's the case, it's better to punch him away. To avoid 100 punches. Feeling Lorna's gaze, Yelling smiled slightly. Said to Tony, Tony, I think Lorna did the right thing. Tony turned his head sharply. Do you know what you're talking about? What will the public think? Those smooth-talking politicians will not let this opportunity pass by. Now Tony has one head and 2 heads. Hey Tony, did you forget that I'm a mutant too? Yelling's voice turned cold. Tony was excited. It seems that's what happened. Mutant has been giving in for too long, and facts have proven that the way to give in is unworkable. Now that the incident has happened, let's strike first. Standing up and coming to Tony's side, Yelling's powerful aura spread out. Tony hesitation said, but the image established before. It's time to change your image. Mutant is no longer a street rat, let alone a lamb to be slaughtered. Yelling's words greatly stimulated Lorna. Yes, I have been hiding here and there for so many years and have repeatedly given in. All he got was a life like a lost dog. No one cares about mutants' life or death. Lorna felt a warm, strong hand grasp her palm. Looking up, it was Yelling with a determined face. A feeling of relief instantly flooded Lorna's heart. A blush appeared on his face. Be the first to strike first. Since the media hasn't reported it yet, let's report it ourselves. Tony, upload the video to the internet. Looking at the video handed over by Yelling, Tony closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Call. Yelling, you are making mutant the enemy of the whole world by doing this. The public will then have serious panic about mutant. Mutant's situation has just gotten better now. Isn't it a little too hasty? Yeling sneered. Tony, can mutant's situation get any worse than it is now? But Tony still had concerns. I know what you are worried about. Xavier Academy for the Gifted will be reopened. This decision was not made on a whim. Instead, the mission system, which had been dormant for a long time, became active again. Mission requirement from Polaris detected, mission generated. Building mutant home long-term mission. Rewards will be issued according to different stages. Current stage, the home has not yet been established, and there is nothing. That afternoon, a video went viral on the internet. In the video, Lorna showed off her power and demolished the prison with just a few moves. And finally announced, mutant will no longer accept any persecution. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the video quickly became popular. Various internet names started discussing the video. Did you see it? This is a thug. Saving people before was just an act. Hydra and mutant must be inseparable. Are you all blind? Mutant was used for human experiments in prison. She just demolished this prison that shouldn't exist, and didn't even kill any of the guards. At a time when the internet is buzzing with excitement, another video has been released. This time the protagonist is billionaire Tony Stark. I will fund the reopening of Xavier Academy for the Gifted. All mutants are welcome and protected here, and mutants are also kept in check. Lorna also appears to testify for Tony. Mutant is not a murderer, we just want to live in this world. This is not a request for your consent, but a notification. Turn off the video. Lorna was relieved to return to the central apartment. Today's journey is like a roller coaster. He turned to look at Yeling, who was basking in the sun. Lorna felt a warm feeling in her heart. Taking courage, Lorna walked to Yeling. He put his hands on Yeling's shoulders and started massaging Yeling. He leaned down to Yeling's ear and whispered, Yeling, thank you. Yeling closed her eyes and enjoyed Lorna's massage. Feel Lorna's flexible little hands roaming back and forth on her shoulders and neck. Yeling's mouth curved slightly. Lorna is becoming more and more relaxed. It seems that due to the change of mood, Lorna's dressing style has also changed. Lorna, who usually loves jeans, changed into a starry sky skirt for the first time today. The black background is dotted with sparkling stars, which is really beautiful. The length just touches the knees, just enough to reveal a pair of long legs. The figure becomes plumper after super serum strengthening. Yeling felt like Lorna's little white rabbit had grown bigger. Suddenly, the fragrant wind came. There was a soft touch on the lips. Give me a kiss. Are you here to attack me again? Yeling opened her eyes and looked at Lorna's blushing cheeks. A pair of moving cheeks were so red that they were about to bleed. The moment the two eyes looked at each other, Lorna felt embarrassed about being caught as a thief with a guilty conscience. I wanted to avoid Yeling's eyes, but I saw the evil smile on Yeling's face. Lorna seemed to have made some kind of determination. The lotus steps moved slightly, and the whole person turned to the front of Yeling. White and tender hands wrapped around Yeling's neck. He strode his long and powerful legs and sat directly on Yeling's body. Her green eyes flashed with some kind of throbbing, and she boldly kissed Yeling's lips. Soak up the sunshine. Green light lit up and enveloped the two of them. Gorgeous and magnificent. Chapter 40 Polly in Xavier's School. Xavier Academy for Gifted Youngsters. 1407 Graymakin Road, New York City. It covers an area of 6.37 square kilometers. searched by the New York government after Professor Charles Xavier disappeared. 2 years ago, this land was bought by the famous entrepreneur Wilson Fisk for $300 million. After saying this, Yeling looked at Jin Bin sitting opposite. The huge office on the top floor of the Wilson building belonged to Kingpin alone. He thoroughly enjoyed standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the view of New York. A white suit wrapped Jin Bing's huge body of nearly 3 meters in it. The purple shirt was bulging out from the muscles underneath. Under the shining forehead is a smiling face. It sounds like you two are very interested in this land. I'm a businessman. As long as the price is right, I can say anything. Kingpin showed his big white teeth and smiled happily. Lorna heard Kingpin's intention, and it was obvious that he was waiting to slaughter the fat sheep. He said directly with a cold face, "Make a price. How much does it cost?" Kingpin straightened his tie and lit a cigar. Take a deep breath and exhale a cloud of smoke. As a businessman, my psychological value is 1 billion. Lorna's eyes widened, green light flashing in her eyes. 1 billion. You only spent 300 million to buy it. The mutated ability suppressor alarm in the room blared. Diddy, diddy, diddy. The sharp siren did not dampen the smile on Kingpin's face. Oh, Miss Dane, I know your ability. But since we are talking about business, we must abide by the rules of business. Definitely, if you want to solve the problem in other ways, I welcome it. As the gang king of New York, Kingpin was not fat. His body fat rate remains at 2% all year round. With over 300 pounds of muscle in his body, he can punch through walls with his bare hands. I am confident that I can crush the magnetic field controller in front of me to death with one hand. Lorna felt that her ability was suppressed by a very strong force. Originally capable of mobilizing objects with a mass of tens of tons. Now it is very difficult to move a fork. This power is exactly the same as Pulse's ability. Obviously, this device is inextricably related to the experiments conducted on mutant. Kingpin stood up, exuding the iron-blooded aura of a gangster king. I know very well how much the two of you love this land, and you are also willing to enjoy the beauty of it. If you can't come up with 1 billion at a time. Jin Bin looked at Yeling. It's not impossible to exchange for 30% of Stark Enterprises shares. Upon hearing this condition, Yeling stood up and said, "It seems that Mr. Kingpin's investigation of me was very detailed. It's just that I think Mr. Kingpin might be mistaken. I just came to tell you that I want this land, but I didn't say I wanted to buy it." Listening to Yeling's words, Jin Bin's brows moved slightly and his eyes narrowed. "Mr. Yeling, your words are a bit confusing to me." Kingpin was not surprised that his identity was revealed. Many people in New York City know the name Kingpin. Even cooperated with Fisker Enterprises because of the name Kingpin. It means that Mr. Kingpin came forward and donated the land to us himself. Yeling walked to Jin Bin's desk and looked directly at Jin Bin. Hee hee. Hearing Yeling's words, Jin Bin laughed out loud. How many years has it been since we heard such a threat, Yeling? It seems you don't know the weight of the name Kingpin. No one in New York can disobey Kingpin's orders. Bang! The solid wood desk weighing 400 to 500 kilograms was kicked away by Jin Bin and headed straight for Yeling. Without mutant ability, you are just ants. Kingpin followed behind the desk, fists clenched. The white suit on his body was stretched out because of the tight muscles. In front of Lorna, he would use his desk to hold down Yeling, and then punch her to death. Kill the chicken to scare the monkeys and let these mutants know. Kingpin was the king of New York. Snapped. But the next moment, huge amounts of desks flew back. Bang! Click! He punched the desk that flew upside down. Jin Bing suddenly realized that Yeling was missing in front of him. Crack! There was a sound of bone cracking, and severe pain came from the knee socket. Kingpin fell to his knees with a thud. The excruciating pain in his knee socket made him break out in a cold sweat. What a speed! So is strength. Yeling's voice sounded from behind. To survive or not to perish, that is the question. Feeling the fingers pressing on the back of his head, Jinpin was sweating profusely. Is this Xavier Academy for the gifted? After getting out of the car, Lorna looked curiously at the huge manor-like buildings in front of her. I have to say that Kingpin did have business acumen. This is going to be renovated and converted directly into a university for use. This newly built dormitory is really nice. It just saves us a lot of trouble. Yeling opened the door and looked around the entire school. Found gold unexpectedly and protected the place well. Lorna really likes the atmosphere of Xavier Academy for gifted and talented. For as long as she can remember, Lorna has lived in hiding. Where are the opportunities for formal education? The environment at Xavier School has always been a place Lorna longed for. Lorna sees everything new now. Look east and west, walking through every building in the school. Even the men's and women's restrooms have to be visited. The toilets are no different from those in community schools. After evaluating the bathroom, Lorna set her sights on the principal's office. He sat down on the boss's chair in the office and put his feet on the desk. His feet were crossed, and the thick soled leather boots he wore were shaking. The black silk under the blue jeans outlines the perfect leg shape. The small leather jacket with rivets adds a rebellious flavor to this youthful vitality. Yeling, I want to be the principal. Puff. One sentence directly made Yeling laugh. The principal is not something that ordinary people can be. You can't do this job, manage student teachers, handle student conflicts, receive students' parents. Which of these do you know? Listening to Yeling reveal a lot of things, Lorna felt dizzy just listening to it. Forget it then, I won't do such a hard job. Then I'll be a teacher. Yeling nodded, okay, what can you teach? Well. Lorna thought for a long time and couldn't think of a suitable subject. After all, he was a scumbag when he was in school, and it seemed that everything he taught would mislead his students. Are there any teachers who don't have to teach? Yeling nodded again, yes. Lorna's eyes lit up. Teacher, the dormitory supervisor. When Lorna heard this, her excitement was instantly extinguished. Isn't that the security guard? Yeling spread his hands and said, there's nothing I can do about it. Who makes you a bad student? Ah! Lorna instantly burst into flames and rushed towards Yeling naturally. He ran into Yeling's strong arms. Feeling the physical contact, Lorna's little face suddenly turned red. Yeling smiled, hugged Lorna and sat on the boss's chair. Hey, bad student Lorna, what do you want to do? Lorna was stunned for a moment, then her red face revealed a wicked smile. How do teachers punish bad students?